Hello, hello, hello. Welcome once again to Entertainment Dudes. Cam Cornelius here, reminding you again to like the show, hit that subscribe button and that notification bell to get the latest stuff. It really helps the show out, so we'd appreciate if you do that. Jason and I are off this week, and we're going to share with you some of the best words of wisdom from some previous shows. Check it out.
I asked them, like, what's your passion? And they said, well, I'm passionate about making a film, or I'm passionate about music, or I'm passionate about whatever. And I said, do you know what the word passion means, where that word comes from? And it comes from the Latin passeo, which means to suffer. And I say, if you're truly passionate, that means you're willing to suffer in order to do that thing that you're passionate about. If that means taking on 3 jobs, if that means doing stuff you don't want to do, a job that you don't care for, in order to stay here in the entertainment industry, you do it.
So when we get on stage, we finally get there on stage. And you never really know how you're going to interact with somebody until you actually meet them in person. But I was more nervous about being on camera than I was about meeting Ryan, because I don't do on-camera stuff. So I meet him. I go in for a fist bump because of COVID, and he's like, "No, that's not going to cut it. Come in for the real deal." And he like gives me a hug, and it's like Sheldon and Penny in that episode of Big Bang Theory. Like, he's hugging me, and I never showered again.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here with a deal from Mint Mobile to tell you about that. It's so freaking huge, I asked Epic Voice Guy to translate it into summer blockbuster. You ready, John?
Ready. In a world where big wireless companies friggin' hate you, a hero will rise. This summer, Mint Mobile is free for 6 months.
And that reaction on his face, by the way, that was real, because we only talked like this until we said, action, and then this came out, and his face was like, holy God. He just couldn't believe that was, he knew it was me.
Right.
But people always had their reaction when they see it in person, and everybody in the room was like, wow.
Like no processing. Exactly. That's actually coming out of his mouth.
Yeah. Now do me.
Right now, you get 6 months of free service when you buy a new phone and a 6-month plan.
Stop doing me. Stop it. I don't sound anything like that.
And as soon as they yelled cut, somebody in the back's like, holy pig, he sounds just like Ryan. And everybody was like applauding. He's like, that's the one we're going to use right there.
Oh, that's the best part of the commercial right there. That's hilarious.
I hate that they pitched it, though. They sped it up to fit in the 30 seconds. I'm like, you couldn't find anywhere else to edit.
Like, come on.
Or maybe it was because they didn't show me long enough. They were afraid it was just Ryan doing Ryan's own voice.
Right.
Because maybe it sounded too much like him. I don't know. Anyway.
And I always remind people, the agent works for you. You don't work for the agent. I know that there is an implied hierarchical poobah, but the reality is that we work for you. And so I think appreciating the human is probably the best thing for an agent to do. I know that sounds all hokey pokey, turn yourself around, but certainly you need negotiation skills, certainly, but again, negotiation skills. Let it go, Cam.
Wait, sorry, you didn't. Okay.
But negotiation skills.
That's what it's all about.
My chair won't do that.
There's a lot of peer pressure. I mean, they kind of implied that you really need a Mac to do voiceover. And God bless the people who have a Mac, even though that's not what I say to them. I say I forgive you. And I have a MacBook Pro. It's not anything bad against Mac. It's just you don't need. Some people have come to me, and not only did they get a new interface that's too fancy, like an Apollo Twin that they really don't need, or universal audio with tubes. It's got tubes. It's got compression and all that, because it's peer pressure. So, or they bought a Neumann 103, and they're just starting out because they heard that's what you should get. And if you're just starting out, you don't need an Apollo Twin, you don't need a universal audio compressor, and you don't need a Neumann 103 or 87 or anything.
People don't know who they are. That's the real bottom line of it is. That you as a person don't understand who you are and how you tick. And that's what the uniqueness you need to bring to that specific character. And people are not doing that. They're just doing it based off, I don't want to get myself in trouble, off of a picture that they see. That's what they're doing. Oh, I could do this crazy voice just in the picture that I see. I can't believe I just did that.
That was a good one.
Wow.
And I'm sure someone's going to use that.
Well,
ringtone?
Jason and I were just talking about that the other day when we were Jason had written a script, and I did some characters in it, and we're just talking about that. No matter what the character is, myself as an actor, there's always me at the center of it, and it's built up around that. There's always a bit of me in there.
It's great.
And no matter who it is. And that kind of is a good solid foundation, because you know you. And
if you know you,
right.
If you know yourself, but there's a lot of people who really, it's what's now that I've seen now is this wall.
Creative people that get so focused in on the doing of what they're doing that they forget that this is an art. And art comes from internal. It's an internal thing. And if the art that you're creating is not part of who you are, then you're kind of playing a role that isn't you. And at the end of the day, that is never fulfilling. It doesn't matter how many awards you get. It doesn't matter if you win an Oscar, an Emmy, any of them. If you're playing something that is not actually you, at the end of the day, you're going to be left wanting. You're going to be left feeling like you're not whole. So knowing who you are is really important. I think there's three main aspects of knowing who you are as a creative. The first one are your skills and strengths. I think, a lot of people are like, oh, well, my grandmother told me I did a really good job when I was in South Pacific in high school drama, and they think, well, that translates to me winning an Oscar, when it probably doesn't. Okay. So being honest about your skills and strengths and the things that you're actually able to do or actually able to learn, I think is important. The next part, I think, is your dreams, what you were talking about. I think your dreams are really important. Those are the things that resonate with you on a heart level, on an emotional level. These are things that make me get up in the morning and be really excited to be alive. Those are your dreams, the things that you can figure out in your head, the things, wouldn't it be great if I did this? And then I think the third part of knowing who you are your passions, what we were just talking about. What are those things that make your heart pound? What are the things that really make you come alive emotionally? And I think where those three things, your skills and strengths, your dreams and your passions, where they overlap, that small little area, usually in most people is a very small thing. That is where your calling is.
You got to keep training. And I think even if you are a pro, you still need training, because there are a lot more people out here who is doing this work than when I was doing it back in years ago.
I'm sorry. Can you clean that up, Cam? I think
I think so. Yeah.
I think there was just a smudge on the mic there. It was
It's
weird.
not a static industry. I mean, there's always new things to learn. Always.
And you've got to keep up with the new trends. Who's developing new stuff, who's producing. And a lot of people are not doing it. Right. I'm like, you ain't even watching TV. You're not going to the movies. You're not even watching the new commercials that's out. Games. Oh my God, the stuff that's going on with games. And plus you're adding, mocap didn't even exist.
Yeah.
10, 15 years ago? So that everyone just sees the thing of, oh, that's cool. I wish, blah, blah, blah. But there's an art, there's a technique, a style that, you have to know.
One of the things I teach right now is the concept of be the weird little car. And when I say be the weird little car, what I mean by that is that casting directors are going to get 8 or 10 shiny Toyotas every time they put out a commercial audition that are going to do everything they're supposed to do, look good, work well, be reliable, be functional. That's great. And they're going to send 2 or 3 or 4 of those to the buyer. But every time the casting director goes, what's that weird little car over there? Every weird little car goes to the buyer today. And these days, the weird little cars book more than the shiny Toyotas do. The reason is what the casting director is listening for. People make this is a huge mistake talent make all the time. What a casting director is listening for is not the perfect read. It's not the flawless example, right? It's who is the person who, when they get into a session and they have to deal with what Jason just said, which is that director who goes, okay, great read, do something different. Are they going to go deer in the headlights, or do they have 5 or 6 other things that they can do to be interesting, to impress that director in that session, to where the director then goes, hey, wow, that's really cool. We didn't think of that. Let's put that in the final. And they call up the casting director and they say, hey, where did you find her? Where did you find him? They're amazing. What the casting director is looking for is not the best read. What they're looking for is job security. And if you can do something in your audition that tells them that you're going to give them job security when you book the job, you're going to book the job.
I can't tell you the amount of times you get into a session and it's like you've got a different idea of what the character is, and you've got to bam, 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 come up with some other stuff.
Right.
There, right then. And that skill can also work in your favor, because maybe about a year ago, I was in a session and we were coming up with those characters, and I ended up booking 2 more characters in the session because of the different voices. But coming up really quickly with different things is very important.
When someone's giving a line, that's great. But where I can tell if they're an actor or not is what they're doing when they're not giving a line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very
important. That's how I judge whether they're an actor or if they're just saying lines.
I think we're in the middle of what I call the second casting revolution. The first is what I talked, 15 years ago, the advent of the online casting sites or the pay-to-plays. That was the first casting revolution. That was an earthquake that came and shook up the way the game was played, and it changed the roles of various, gatekeepers in the industry in a lot of ways. And it changed access in a lot of ways. And it had both positive and negative impacts on the industry. What we're seeing now is what I call the curator revolution. And what the curator revolution is, it is the advent of 25 to 35-year-olds who are in positions of power to cast today that that age group hasn't always been in the past. We're seeing them doing more hiring today than they used to. Today's 25s to 35s are part of a generation that is antithetical to the idea of the middleman. And what they are doing is they're not really going back to the brick and mortar world of VO, but they're also looking at the Voice 123s and the voices.coms and seeing basically gig economy, Uber and Lyft for voiceover. These are people who have grown up in the gig economy, kind of, pardon my language, getting on by these companies, right? And worked in service industry, worked in things where people were taking a 20% cut, out of the tip jar and out of whatever they were getting paid. This is not how they want to work. And so what they're doing is they are curating lists of talent through direct search, through Google search. They're targeting very, very specific search terms and specific genres for particular demographics that they're looking for to voice their spots. And they are coming up with a list of 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 talent that they are going to over and over and over again and hiring. So it's one of the reasons today, if you're a new voice actor, one of the most important things you can be focusing on is SEO, is search engine optimization, is making sure that you are highly visible in Google search. Because while, look, we love our agents, we love our managers, and those of us who I still use Voice 123, I still use Bidalgo, we love the sites that book us work. But things pivot, things move, and those things aren't going to go away. But now we have this new thing that is playing a bigger and bigger part. I get 2 or 3 jobs a day today that walk in through my website because I've got a Google authority score of 38, a domain authority score of 38, which for an individual voice actor is pretty crazy. And big shout out to Joe and Karen at Voice Actor Websites for helping me get there. But at the end of the day, if I go back 5 years, my site was still pretty powerful 5 years ago. And I only got maybe 1 or 2 walk-ins a week. And I know all of the other talent who I know in this business who have been around for more than 5 minutes and who have well SEO'd websites, they're seeing the same. They're seeing walk-in, big brand name companies. I've had Wendy's national stuff, MTV national in-show narration, British Airways, Universal Orlando, all walk in through my website without having to go chase them. And it's not just a trend. It's not just something that might happen. It's the reality of where we are today. So if you're a newer talent right now, SEO, it should be at least a third of your focus in making sure that you are visible out there in search.
If someone's interested in getting started in this, where do they even look, in order to do it, seriously?
Yeah, like I want to do Kylo Ren. Like, what do I do? Like, I can't go to the costume store. Those aren't good. I want to make a good Kylo Ren. What do I do?
In short, if you want to do it, yes, you start with research. You have to know your budget, how much money you're willing to spend on it. And then you just Google forums and Facebook groups. There are tons of those, and they have a bunch of tutorials and resources where you can buy things, people who you can commission. So you spend half the time just researching. A lot of cosplayers are costumers first and foremost, which means their main specialty is making the costume and being very particular with the detail, with fabrication, with everything. And cosplay doesn't necessarily involve you yourself making your costume from scratch and being a professional in it. So cosplay includes costuming.
What are your dreams and what are you willing to do to achieve them? Because I think the dream is the motivator that gets you to leave the safety and comfort of where you are to go risk something. That's what happened with you.
And I'll say to them, I say, for example, outside in Hollywood, there's the Hollywood Hills, and there's a tree up there on top of it, right behind the Hollywood sign, and it's called the Wisdom Tree. There's like a box up there you can go into and put little bits of wisdom or glean wisdom from. And I said to my students, I go, look, it's 105 degrees out there. Who wants to hike to the top of that hill right now in 105 degree weather? Who wants to go? No hands. I said, but what if I told you there's $1 million at the bottom of that, and whoever gets there first can have it? Every hand went up. So the motivation is that dream to get you to go to become somebody. It's going to hurt along the way. And it's like you said, the suffering is that journey about who we become. And how much richer are your stories now after you've experienced something? Like, do you feel it's changed you in any way?
Oh, absolutely. But in terms of the stories themselves, as artists, we're informed by experience, by human experience. And if we, there's an old quote, and I don't remember who said it, about writers. He said, woe to him who sits down to write, who has not yet stood up to live. And I think that's really true for us as artists. It's like, we need that experience. We need the suffering. We need those things inside of us in order for our stories that we are creating, or our songs, or whatever we're doing creatively, to resonate with people. If we don't have those things, then we're just kind of making it up as we go. And the worst thing that you can have is somebody who tells a story when you know they have no idea what they're talking about.
Hope you enjoyed the recap. You know, one of the things that has been a common theme among a lot of our shows is that no matter where you are or what you want to do or what you want to be, know yourself. Keep being yourself, because you are the most authentic expression of your creativity. So don't lose yourself. Keep yourself in whatever you do. That's it for Entertainment Dudes this week. Jason and I will be back next week with some more fun stuff. We'll see you later.